There are many shows in this great world of ours, some good and some not so good. But there are some shows that are good in some parts and not good in other parts. Opinions on the matter may also differ. This is Seasons Ranked. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Seasons Ranked. This podcast will be about my own personal opinions on many of the best shows and worst shows known in history, and also rankings on the episodes of the season I discuss in the episode, which is all based on my personal opinions. Now let's go over the basics. My name is Anton Rikai, and I will be your host for the series. Yes, thank you, that's very nice, yes. And for the first episode, we'll be ranking the first season of the Netflix series Atypical. Now, this is one of those Netflix shows that I feel isn't seen and respected enough. I'm sure it's more popular than I'm describing here, but I haven't seen that this is the case, so I'm only going off how I see it. Even with that, however, I'd like to say that I think this is one of the best Netflix shows ever created, and possibly even up there with some of the greatest shows of all time. The first season contains 8 episodes, and we'll be ranking them all today from my least favourite to most favourite. Again, keep in mind that this is my personal opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and whatever they like and don't like. With that out of the way, at number 8 we have, oddly enough, episode 8, The Sciencing Properties of Snow. This is the only episode in the entire show's history that I have always hated ever since I first watched it, because for me, this is the episode where everyone turned into jerks. It is especially disappointing because all of the characters had understandable motives, and I liked all of them this season, barring a few. But this episode screwed that up by making everyone yell and scream at each other and get into awful situations. What's even worse is this was written by the creator of the show itself, Rabia Rashid. The ending in general was the worst part, and my blood was boiling at that point. I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to talk about it even further, but I'll just say that I rate it a 2 out of 10. At number 7 we have episode 4, A Nice Neutral Smell. This episode is a bit disappointing as I did have high hopes going in, but despite the episode that preceded it. I felt all the concepts were there to make it something unique, but it didn't come together too well. Some of the moments in this episode are a bit creepy, and nothing in the episode is well constructed or very cohesive. As a result of all this, the episode is a bit disappointing, but it is much better than the finale though. 4 out of 10. Now we'll be going over a couple of episodes that I think are decent. At number 6 we have episode 3, Julia Says. I think this episode is better than the previous 2, but it isn't all that well rounded and does contain a lot of nonsensical connections. However, the episode does have some great and relatable moments, like when Sam's friend Zahid bought him a jacket with a whale picture on it and he didn't like it. That's how I usually feel about icons on shirts. However, none of the moments in the episode are synced well to tell a cohesive story, which I normally don't mind in most forms of entertainment. However, when you're watching a live action series that isn't a game show, reality show or talk show, you kind of expect some cohesion to take shape. However, this episode is still decent enough to sit through. 6 out of 10 from me. At number 5 we have the first episode, Antarctica. This episode is the very beginning of the show as a whole, but it's also the most average one you can find. This is a good thing, however, as you need a show to start average in order to introduce and begin building upon the characters, settings and situations. This is also the episode that kicks off the many stories of the season, but the one nitpick I have is that the episode does run rather slow. It's 42 minutes long, the longest of the season. Still, it was average enough and the experience wasn't too bad. A 6 out of 10. We'll be going over the next few choices in a minute, but first, a word from our sponsor. This podcast was sponsored by Stanwell Podcasts. Make sure to check out the full library of podcasts available on the service. No subscription required. Terms and conditions apply. Back to the ranking now. At number 4 we have Episode 6, The D-Train to Bone Town, and that title is just disgusting. Despite the terrible title that the episode came up with, this is the part in the ranking where the episodes are actually really good. Episode 6 of this season is one of the best, in my opinion, because it contains a very good story that has a great sense of cohesion. There are several moments in it that I really enjoy. There are also some tense moments too at the same time. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it comes as a recommendation. 7 out of 10. At number 3 we have Episode 2, A Human Female. This is another good episode of the season, but it also does a good job of giving the audience full shock value. There are several moments that will make you shocked about the characters' actions, and considering this episode takes place so early on in the series' timeline, that's definitely a rather different path from the one the average show takes. I don't have too much to say about it, but it is another recommendation from me. However, the only thing I probably could have done without is Sam breaking into his therapist's house to give her chocolates. Not a good idea, writers. Despite that, 7 out of 10. And at number 2 now, we have Episode 7, I Lost My Poor Meatball. Despite, again, the title they chose, this episode is actually one of the best in the season, which is really surprising considering there are only 2 main plots in the whole entire episode. However, it is also a great episode for expanding on and building character development. Again, keep in mind there are only 2 plots for this to happen, and they pull it off. Not sure how they did it. However, it's also a rather unsettling moment at the end, but if you could look past that, then the episode is really enjoyable. An 8 out of 10. And the number 1 episode of Atypical Season 1 is Episode 5, That's My Sweatshirt. Seriously though, what are these titles? That question out of the way, this is my personal favourite episode of the first season of Atypical. It gets all the characters right, the story is heartwarming and tense, and some moments even made me happy cry when watching it. We get to see some funny and heartwarming moments between Sam and Paige. There's also a sibling rivalry story to go through as well. The ending of Sam and Paige's story in the episode is also one of the best moments in all of Netflix. That was a moment I happy cried on. This is the best episode of the season. Very much recommend it. I give it a 9 out of 10. And now we have come to the end of the ranking. It sure was fun going over the episodes of this season and ranking them from favourite to least favourite. Before I go, I'd like to thank you all for staying until the end. You truly are dedicated viewers for making it through. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. Goodbye!